Welcome to another episode of Creators Corner. I'm your host, James Dale, and with me is the beautiful Nadia Sims. How you doing today?
Hello, how are you?
All right. Nadia Sims is a Manchester-based poet. She aims to spread her message of grace throughout New England and beyond. The Princeton graduate is a proud author of 2 books titled A Soft Place to Land and We Know the Dog. She also recorded a spoken word album titled The Weight of Grace, available and streaming everywhere. What was your experience at Princeton?
Oh, Princeton was hard. So when I got to Princeton, I realized quickly that I had to do 2 jobs. Okay. I had to learn what everybody else was learning, but also had to bring myself up to speed. Mm-hmm. So I had to teach myself how to learn. While everybody else was just writing papers, I had to teach myself MLA formatting, how to do equations, how to get kind of like bridge the gap. Mm-hmm. So Princeton made me tough.
Okay, that's good. That's good. What don't break you will make you stronger.
Absolutely.
Which is a great thing. You know?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you had a lot of friends there that helped you along with your studies. You had to study with a partner and things of that nature, or you just did it solely on your own.
I do a lot of things on my own, but I feel like there were a good amount of people who had the same struggle, who understood. I made friends with a lot of the staff. Like I worked a couple jobs while I was there to kind of help pay my way. So I worked in the student office, I worked in the dining hall, and I was also a residential advisor. Okay. So those were my people, especially the cafeteria, especially the dining hall. Those were my people. They kept me grounded. They baked me pies. Like, they were my mom when I was missing my mom.
That's good. That's good. So that motivated you.
Absolutely.
So what did you study?
So I became an English major.
Okay.
I'm not good at math and science, so English is my go-to. Okay. I love the written word.
Okay. So did that prompt you to start writing, or were you writing poetry before?
I've been writing poetry my whole life.
Okay.
Like I was the girl in grade school doing poetry about Remember the Titans over the intercom and like grade school. Like that was me. That was me.
So that means you got good grades, because in order to speak over the intercom, you had to be a top tier student. That's great. That's great. So what prompted you to start writing poetry? What was that major event?
Doing poetry like privately or started performing? Like what do you mean?
Privately and then performing. So it's a 2-tier question.
Okay, well poetry was always my therapy. Mm-hmm. It was always my release. So like when my mom was going through her divorce and previous problems, that was just my way of kind of staying sane and getting to go and coping. Yes. Mm-hmm. When I started performing a few years ago, I hadn't written in a while, and I started feeling like my God-given gifts were unemployed. So I was like, I'm just gonna give it my all. I'm gonna start writing, I'm gonna start performing, and when I get to heaven, if God asks, what did you do with the gifts I gave you?
You did.
I could say, I tried.
You know what I mean? So when you on your performance pieces, are those old pieces, or did you start writing new pieces when you became a performance?
When I became a performer.
Slam poet.
When I became a performer, I started writing a new piece almost every show. I was doing multiple open mics a week just to catch up to my peers. So I would do a main piece, like I would do the title piece from A Soft Place to Land, and then I would write a new piece every time I went on stage. So just to keep me fresh, just to keep my pen going.
So are you professionally a poet, period, or do you have a day job? I know you want to say a main job. I'm going to say a day job.
I have a day job.
Okay.
I have a day job that pays the mortgage. Poetry is like starting to become something that I can depend on, but I like to stay safe and economically sound.
Okay. So what is your favorite style of poetry to write?
I love like long form storytelling poetry. I love poetry. Epics. Oh yes. I love a good narrative that tells a story, that says what happens, that makes you feel things. Those are my favorite pieces. Those 3-4 minute joints. But I can do other things.
Okay. So do you have a favorite poet?
A favorite poet?
Yes, other than yourself, because I know every writer choose themselves as their favorite poet, and if you don't, you should.
Right, that's fair.
Mm.
My favorite, the poet that got me like into poetry, June Jordan.
Okay.
She's a Black poet that I studied in college, and I loved her.
Mm-hmm.
She's so rich, and like she's so unafraid to be Black and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she doesn't pretend to be tough. She is not here to be strong. She is Black, vulnerable, and soft, and all those things you want to be. Like, she's so human, and I love her.
And that is poignant for you to say, because a lot of Black women in society feel as though they have to be strong and have that exterior to show the world that they can do it without ... So for you to say that she is unafraid to show her vulnerability is beautiful to say, and it's a mouthful, because when you see a Black woman, you're always going to think in your mind that person is going to be defensive or on edge for some reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't imagine a woman who wants to be hard, who wants to have to do it all on her own. I don't know any woman who's out here happily being strong. I feel like we do what we must to survive, but softness is always the dream. I would love to depend on someone. I would love to be taken care of. Fortunately, that's not my reality, but I'm learning that I don't have to be so hard that I become brittle, because when you're brittle, you're easily breakable. So I know how to be tough without being hard. And I think that is the line that a lot of us are kind of towing and saying, okay, how am I going to live? What does living feel like? Because when you're brittle and hard, you feel defensive, because anything might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And no one wants to live like that. Not that I can imagine.
Yeah, you don't want to have that psychotic break where
you
are sitting in the corner banging your head against the wall, you know what I mean?
Right.
So writing for you was literally your savior, and I can attest to that because I write poetry and I write short stories and novels, and for me, my saving grace was poetry. You know, my dad passed away when I was young, and I saw my brother. He wrote, and I saw the happiness in him, and I said, let me try it. And I wrote it, and I was like, oh, all the pain is gone. It's on the paper, and I can go back to it and refer to it if I want to and recite it. But once I close that book, that pain is there. It's not. It doesn't stay with me. I don't walk around with it on my shoulder. It's not a part of my personality. It doesn't make me hard, soft, or indifferent. Who I am is a result of those experiences, and it makes me a better person. Absolutely. So your book, We Know the Dark, is a story of redemption, grace, and love's overwhelming ability to overcome our own shame. Is this story about solely about the first woman, Eve, or is your story a part of this great book?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think Eve gets a lot of flack because everyone's like, oh, she messed it up for humanity, but I don't know many of us who could have been in her spot and not had a similar outcome. So it provides a little grace for her, a little sympathy, and it also teaches us to have grace for ourselves. So in the story, Eve never dies, and she is a woman who's had to learn how to forgive herself, how to give herself grace, and a lot of us don't know how to do that.
Right.
They don't know how to say, I was young and dumb and just trying things out, and I didn't know how to handle myself better.
Right. So you have to atone for your mistakes, but you always have to not take yourself too seriously.
And forgive that younger version.
Forgive yourself.
Yes.
Like you had to have an out-of-body experience so you can move forward, and that's where depression sets in, when you dwell on the past and say, oh, if I coulda, shoulda, woulda, did this, the outcome in life would have been better. No, whatever happened was supposed to happen if you believe in a higher force and you learn from that situation. You know, your publication, A Soft Place to Land, isn't about Black trauma. It's about Black healing. Are all your works religious in nature?
I would say that all of my works, my faith has a hand in all of my works.
Okay.
I have a very intimate relationship with God. and I don't try to push my religion on other people, but faith is how I survive. It's how I process the world. It's how I process myself. And I feel like God's love is a part of how I handle other people. So you will find it throughout. Like there's a hand in God. Like his fingerprint is on everything I do and touch. Even the bad stuff. Like even the stuff people are like, she don't know God. And it's like, yes I do. Because he knows all of me. He knows the whole woman, good, bad. You can't hide from him anyway, right? So I let his presence show and reflect in who I am and how I process. Because if you read the Bible, it's full of the nitty gritty, nasty, all of the above. There's not a situation that God hasn't seen and written about firsthand. So I let that kind of grace shine in my works.
Okay. I like that answer. For me, I had an intimate relationship with the characters in the Bible when I was in college. I suffered a heartbreak, and I hope everybody out there would experience that young in their life and don't get married at 21, 22 and think everything is all peachy keen, and then at 24, 25 you think when you break up with that significant other, the world is an end, and then you start smoking cigarettes and things of that nature. No, have a heartbreak early, learn from that heartbreak. And when I had that heartbreak, I referred to the Bible, and upon reading the Bible, I noticed that there were people in it that was like me, who suffered like me, who for the most part looked like me. You know what I mean? So I said, there's something here. Maybe I shouldn't take myself so seriously, and I could move forward just like these people have moved forward, learn from their mistake, and blossom as a result. I noticed in your pile of works here that you have a book that I didn't mention. To the Star Maker We Go. And could you explain a little bit about this book?
So the Star Maker We Go, there's two siblings who lose their older brother. And grief is explained to them by their parents that their brother's in the sky, you can find him in the stars. And they say, okay, let's go to the Star Maker and we'll get a constellation made of him so that we can see him and we know he's there. Because we can't find him yet. So they travel to the Star Maker, and the Star Maker explains that he's already up there. He's a constellation. And I wrote this book because I lost a friend who had a very young child. And I say, how do we process grief as children? What do we give children to look to? And it's always the stars. So that's how that book came about. And it's a little love child of mine. It's like
I have 3 daughters, and children's books is one of those things that I read all the time. Every night I read a children's book. So children's books have a special place for me in my heart. And I was going to ask if you illustrated the book, but it's illustrated by Daniel Walker.
Yes,
and,
he's fabulous.
How long ago did you write this story, and how long ago did you publish this story, and where can people get this book?
So, To the Star Maker We Go is available on Amazon currently. I wrote it in January, and we had it published in February, the day before my birthday, February 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a Pisces.
I'm a Pisces.
Okay, I'm an Aquarius. You know what I mean?
Well,
the best
hello.
people on the planet.
Oh, well.
You know, other than
Debatable, but
other
you know.
Pisces. So, A Soft Place to Land. I love the cover. And the cover is of who now?
This is my friend Nadia.
Okay.
She emotes so beautifully, and she gives all these facial expressions, and she captured them for me, and we formatted it, and it's just a process, like anger, sadness, love, joy, all of it's there.
Okay. Where can your fans get this book? My audience.
Also on Amazon. Everything is on Amazon. So Nadia Sims, you look me up, all of it's there.
Okay. So you have your spoken word.
Yes.
Could you explain the process of actually going to the studio? I'm gonna assume that you went to the studio with the headphones on and you recited your poems and you had the intense look on your face.
Oh my gosh.
Is it over rhythms or is it all a cappella?
There are a lot of songs. So I bought the beats, I bought the beats and I wrote 98% of the album. So that's their musical hooks on there, their musical choruses. The only thing that I didn't write, there's a feature from a fabulous poet out of Springfield, Aaron St. Louis, or A.J. Saint. We did a collaboration called Love Languages. He wrote his portion, but everything else is either a poem or a chorus or a hook that I wrote. And we went to the studio, Connecticut artist Clockwise. He has a studio called the Clock Tower. We recorded it and he helped me mix it and I mastered it and put it out.
There it is. How long have you came out with this CD?
That also came out in February. Yeah.
How long? February what year?
This year.
This year? Okay.
This year.
Okay, this is brand new.
This is for my birthday. I said I would do it.
So how has this been? You know,
it's been pretty good. Yeah, like a lot of opportunities have come from it.
That's great. So do you get most of your sales online, or do you go to events and then you sell your merch after your performance?
Definitely events.
Okay.
Definitely events. I encourage a lot of artists to have your own inventory and sell it at events because the percentage that you keep is much higher.
Much so.
Much so.
Yes.
So.
Okay. And I like this because as an author myself going out to events, I noticed that people tend to buy you as the individual. They want to see the artist and see that it's tangible. It's not coming from an AI, especially now in 2023. A lot of stuff will come from AI, even the written portions of it. So to see that there's somebody who's living flesh that's written 98% of this album in particular, I'm going to assume that all the other stuff is 100% of it,
absolutely.
right? Other than the feature, it's a breath of fresh air for people, and people want to have a piece of that Americana, a piece of that artwork, of that creativity. So we know the dark. I love the book cover.
Thank you.
It is like Mother Nature giving birth to something great, you know. And I love that because in the background is trees and it's forests and it's greenery and that's who we are. We are plants, you know, just living. We have a heartbeat and we can speak, but plants are nature, and without plants we can't be, you know, and without us a lot of plants can't be because we have to, you know, plant it and cultivate it. So what prompted you to write about Eve? You know, Eve is written in the Bible. Why did you feel the need to explain her story more so?
I think tackling shame has been a big part of my journey, and I feel like if you're thinking about shame, no one gets it more than Eve. So if you're gonna tackle shame, go to the source.
Okay. Other than not Brutus, other than Judas. Other than Judas,
he's different.
Okay.
Men are tricky.
Explain. This is the forum to explain it.
I don't really write about men a lot in terms of me being a writer of their character.
Okay.
Now I'll write about dating men.
Okay.
I do that.
Okay.
But in terms of writing from a man's perspective, I don't know that I can do that.
Okay.
Y'all are tricky. Y'all are some tricky people.
It's up for debate. You know, you can say the same thing. You say women are tricky. It's 50-50, but it takes us to understand each other.
Absolutely.
You know, we got to be honest with ourselves as individuals in order to respect somebody and empathize with somebody from their perspective. You know, that's the only way you'll be able to understand the world around you. Is you have to understand yourself and all of your subtle nuances. And if you lie to yourself, you're going to lie to the public.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And if you are fake, you're going to have fakeness around you because everybody believes that there's a facade going on and they have to live up to that facade. And then when they come around, get away from you, then they go, I can take off this girdle and then all of this stuff could go around and then I can be myself. No, be yourself.
That is
you know,
a word.
if you got a a mole, don't cover up that mole. If you got a gap tooth, don't put gold teeth around it. Let people see you the way you are so they can feel comfortable within themselves and they can see that it's okay to be yourself.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
Okay.
That was a bar.
So I want to say that you have an eclectic ensemble of works, right? You have poetry, you have a children's book. What style of writing do you go to more? So do you like to write stories or do you like to write poetry?
Poetry comes naturally.
Okay.
I read poetry in my sleep.
Okay.
I'm writing poetry all the time.
Okay.
I can always take a poem and make it bigger and expand it into a story, but the first form is always poetry.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's great. For me myself, I like stories. You know what I mean? And
fiction?
I tend to write, even with my poetry, I tend to write stories out of my poetry, put a lot of myself into it because, like I said, I use poetry as a form of therapy. So whatever I'm feeling at the time or in the past, I try to get it out there on paper so it could resonate with somebody, so somebody out there don't have to suffer how I suffered in that situation. Right? Because what we need to do, the responsibility that we have, especially if we are in a position of influence, is to make sure that somebody who comes after us, who sees us, don't have to make the same mistakes that we made. You know, I'm the last of 4 kids. They call it the wash belly, right? So I experience things differently from other people because I learned from everybody else's mistakes because everything came to me last. I got the hand-me-down. I didn't get to watch my own shows. I got to watch what everybody else watched. So I had to formulate the world from a perspective of I shouldn't do that because I saw the results of that, or I should do that, incorporate that into my own life because it worked for this person. You know what I mean? So I think that writing stories is a great form of expression for me as an individual because it helps you understand the world around me and having a unique perspective because I grew up in the big city. I grew up in New York, and there's 50 million characters in New York, and out of those 50 million characters, there's 100 million, 200 million stories because each one of those individuals got at least 10, 15 stories that they can talk to you about and tell you, you know. And to go back to piggyback on what you said you write poetry in your sleep. I have a book, and I wrote that book during COVID time, driving the bus. I'm a bus driver, and I wrote it, you know, while I was driving on my break. You know what I mean? I would just come up with a line and then just write about what the world is going through and what it means to me to be of the world and be affected by what is going on that's out of my control. So I could, you know, contend to what you're saying about writing poetry because it's a part of you. Every time I see a poet or I am around a poet, I say, that is me. You know, I can identify with you because I know the power of poetry. It's a healing thing. You know, it's a gift from you as an artist to other people, so they could experience. Period.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I think my job as a poet is to show what's possible. Like everything that I've done has been self-published, self-produced. I put all of this together. I did all of the photography, like scheduled the photographers, did all the editing, put it on Amazon, packaged it, all of that. Same with the CDs. Got it printed, put it together, printed out the artwork. I show that it's possible. You do not need a label. You do not need a company. It's nice if you can get that support, but nothing gets to stop you from being an artist.
Right. Nothing
gets to stop you from living your dream. And I think people confuse success for the dream, or they confuse success for the stage. Your art is your win. That is your win. And I show you that it's possible. You can do it. there's nothing that gets to stop you, and you get to show up as yourself and expand and grow and take up all the space you want and be that artist. That's what I get to do. That's like the best part of being a poet, is being an artist.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. I love that.
It's amazing.
You
It's
answer the question
amazing.
that I normally ask everybody. So I ask them to say a statement of words of wisdom, and that is it.
Hey.
So you have the floor. Is anything else you want to say? You know, any products you want to push, any events that you want to tell the people out there to see you at, where they can get to you or get to your works or anything. This is your floor. You can...
Well, October and November are very, very busy. So please follow me on my Instagram. That is at true_simzy. That's TRU_SIMSZYYY. You can see that I have a spectrum of events on Thursday. Oh, you can find my books there. You can find snippets of the tracks. All of them are there. On Thursday, I'll be doing poetry at Jazzy's Cabaret with Epic the Poet. On Saturday, I'll be joining my friends in Springfield for Angel Saint and Friends. Museum of Poets is happening November 4th. There's a list. So a lot of flyers, a lot of events, a lot of good art. And I'm always surrounded by great artists and great writers, rappers, singers, and poets. There's a lot of talent.
That motivates you to write stuff?
That motivates me, that performs with me, that surrounds me. I am swimming in glorious talent, and I have a lot of talented people, a lot of talented and amazing things happening. So come out, support. I'd love to see you. I'd love to hear you. Let's make art happen.
Yes, that's a great statement. And on that note, my name is James Dale. This is Nadia Sims, the great Nadia Sims.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Creative's Corner, and tune in to the next